I've named this video AI Misery because I think that misery loves company, and the internet seems to be awash of people who think AI is one of the worst things because we're at a stage now where more people are using it and using it badly. I want to dispel a few myths, and I want to talk to you about how you don't have to fall for this idea of miserable AI by simply having a few guardrails and a few common sense things and understanding how AI should and shouldn't be used. And if you're an older person who has been not even given the ability to learn AI and you're fearful of it, I'm an older woman. I'm closer to 70 than 60. I've worked in tech since the 90s, and I want to share with you the fact that I think this is not a bad time to be alive, but one of the most exciting. And I'm wondering if some of the misery is being dispelled to stop people from even bothering to try. Unlike the Industrial Revolution, which was a displacing technology, uh, AI is one of the mind. So if you can imagine years ago, and this is before my time and pretty much before anyone's time here, but when the Industrial Revolution sort of came in and they talked about people being Luddites and not wanting to grasp technology, and they laughed at them for being old fashioned, they didn't want the automated mills, they didn't want automated printing. I think that they were worried about the loss of history because when the Industrial Revolution came along, there was no longer the need to have a lot of these printers doing things, writing things by hand. A lot of the mills and a lot of the things that we did by hand were superseded by machines, and therefore that tradition has been lost. And people ended up moving away from the country. So they live in a village where it was almost self-contained. You would have the range of services that would help a community live, and for some things you'd have to travel, but generally you could live in one village and not travel far and live your life comfortably. With the Industrial Revolution, if you were to use just even an example of Henry Ford and the beginning of building cars on assembly lines, it gave the opportunity for people to travel and to be able to not have horses and to be able to work and earn income in ways that they had not been able to do before, and probably at better value. But the difference here is that Henry Ford owned all this, or his companies, or a few people, and the workers were still the workers. And I believe this is sort of how technology has been. If I look at the internet, you've still got to do your database work, you've still got to do your Excel stuff, you've still got to do your dispatching, and a lot of these things were manual until such point where there's been technology that has taken over. So you think there's displacement of men and women like there used to be with equipment, but the difference is now it's of the mind. But the flip side of this is there has never, ever in history that I'm aware of, and it's only with my knowledge, been a time where the ordinary person, whether they're sitting at home remotely, whether they're a person coming in after work, whether they're a mother or a father or just even a child with an idea, could come along and use the internet and ask a page on the internet, how do I do this? And get an answer back in a way that lets them elevate their knowledge, elevate their position in life. Now, the people who are not liking AI, there was one video that I saw which had several 100,000 views. And a person was very sad about his coding life because the coding life for him had changed. No longer was he writing code, but he was actually having to just check the code. And he didn't feel that lovely closeness to the code or writing it. So the idea from the mind coming down into the computer and creating something that other people could use or he could use and be comfortable. He was literally giving instructions on or having to, giving instructions and then the computer was doing it. And all we would be doing is looking through lines of code. Or you look at the older person who's being asked to train AI to knowing that they're going to lose their job. I don't think that that's a very comforting thing to do, and I would feel uncomfortable. But the sadness this guy had when he talked about his relationship with stepping away from AI and never using it, was I felt one that happened when he started to talk about his personal life in AI, with AI. So whether it's relationship problems, not even problems, but relationship improvements, um, things about his health, and an action took place where he'd listened to AI and went to a doctor and felt that it was sort of mocked a little bit because he had trusted AI, and the doctor sort of said, "Well, why are you here?" So he had a financial cost of that. And then he had a humiliation cost, and it would give you time to reflect and think, shit, AI is pretty bad. But my question would be is why would anyone talk to AI, which is literally just a library of content where they've gone along and they've had the technology capabilities to take absolutely pretty much every book, every post someone's put on the internet, every story that's been written, every article that's been written, every news article that's been published, every video, absolutely everything has been usurped into one big library. So I can't see, in my opinion, that AI will never be anything else but a fantastic uh, recall place for information. But it's not going to be the truth. It is only going to give information as best as we gave it instructions. And those who don't give clear instructions to AI, I believe, will always be tricked. I've been tricked, and I've been tricked not necessarily because I haven't asked broad enough questions, is that I haven't read through what I received and then questioned it. I sort of got lulled into thinking, yeah, this sort of looks all right, this looks all right, only to find out that when I said, can you please look left, it ended up looking right. And I thought, what the hell, where am I? So I learned over time to always ask the questions carefully, give instructions carefully, and then to check, double check. We always want to check things. And you can do that by learning how to ask questions correctly. And does it mimic you? It doesn't mimic you, except that it will respond in a way that it understands your patterns of writing and then understands your patterns of understanding. And this is only my interpretation, okay? So with people get scared of this, but I don't talk to AI at all about anything personal ever. I treat it as if I was going to be asking a question for something at work. I don't talk about health things at all, and I would never ask AI about my personal life. The reason I think people are getting mistaken with AI is something that reflects from the past. It reflects from the past and watches your patterns when you're writing and then gives you back answers in a way it believes you can understand. And that people get tricked because they're not able to articulate how they need to ask the question. So the fear of AI is something I think that's also being generated by people who really don't want you to know about the good things about AI because they want it all for themselves. And I know it probably sounds grandiose, but I'm thinking to myself, if you had this idea that you could create an app or you could create something that you didn't need a developer for and you could then solve a problem and make money, why shouldn't you be allowed to do it? Why should it only be the big companies that do it? The big companies are struggling because they've jumped into AI and tossed out the humans. And so now what they're finding is there's dysfunction because the one thing beautiful about being a human is that we have got this insight. We've got this history, and the older you get, the more beautiful history you get, the more tapestry and ideas, experiences, good and bad. I heard lots of bad, but we've had good experiences that give us the ability to look at something, read it, and say, yeah, no, that doesn't sound right, and challenge. And I don't think I'm a particularly intelligent person. You wouldn't leave me with a box of IKEA and a set of instructions on how to put it together. My mind doesn't work like that. But I think because I've got this age and this wisdom and this experience behind me, I'm a little bit more, I'm going to just not trust. Now, the very younger generation, they are quite polished, okay? They're quite polished and they are very untrustworthy, which is fantastic. They're dialing off digital and going to analog more, which is fantastic. They're finding a balance. But the people in the middle, the people who sort of got introduced to this wonderful wave of technology and this wave of AI and this wave of being able to create and think that it's just this open slather, it's a solution for everything. It is not, and it will never ever remove the need for human connection. So I'm going to ask you that if you're an older person and that you are not getting educated on AI, why not? You should be, because you can be the part and the sense that's needed with AI, with taste, with wisdom, with experience, that is the missing piece on how people need to work when talking with AI. My name's Nina. I have been working in tech since the 1990s. 1996 is when I started, so 30 years ago. And I am very much an optimist in life, and I love technology, which is a democratizing technology. And that means, like, AI used to be really for the big companies, and now AI can be for someone who wants to lift and raise themselves up and has an idea but can't necessarily get it all together because they can't afford a developer. Now, before I finish, I want to give you an example of one young man who's a farmer, and he does direct-to-public sales, and he ships products out. I want to give you his example of how he has changed his life without being a coding guru. He didn't have the budget for a coding guru, but he sat down with AI and he said, he explained the problem. He has shipping issues when he's delivering his goods. Packing time gets chaotic. Sometimes people want to change the dates and it gets very messy. And he wrote a system that has saved him 2 to 3 hours a day, allows his customers to change dates easily, gives them a snapshot of where everything is at one time, and has made his life much more calmer and easier. Why should he have been deprived if AI wasn't around? He couldn't afford a developer. But he is a man who's using AI as it should be used, as a tool to solve a problem, not to solve your personal problems. That's something you can't ask AI to do. And not to solve your health problems. You should never ask AI anything to do with health for yourself. It's like we don't trust ourselves anymore. We outsource to a doctor, or we outsource to AI, but we never sit down really and think, okay, what did I eat? What did I do? Where did I go? They don't look after you. You don't have this internal intuition. Start getting some of that and you won't be as scared, and AI will never replace a human. That's my take on it. Thanks very much for listening. I'd like to know your comments.